I'm Sravya, and I'm from the CMU Bhangra dance team. One thing that dance has really helped me do is connect to my Indian roots, specifically when I send videos of me dancing to my family back home. It helps them feel connected to me because most of the social and pop culture references that I understand or that they're used to is not something we can relate on, and a lot of the way that I've grown up has been so different than what they're used to. So one thing that they love to see and love to get excited about is my dancing, and it's been a great way for me to still feel like I have something in common with my family back home and my cousins who are also dancers. Yeah, so I went to a high school that was not very diverse, and there wasn't a large Indian or Asian American community there. So when we had our cultural show, it was meant for the few of us that were more of diverse cultural backgrounds, and I felt very uncomfortable saying I was a dancer at times because when I said I was a dancer, they would kind of encourage me to be like, oh, you should join the dance team. But the dance team was not really the type of dance that I grew up doing. I did classical Kuchipudi dance styles and fusion, Bhangra, and Bollywood dance styles, which weren't really what the dance teams would encourage. So when I danced at my cultural show, it was I felt very self-conscious and insecure dancing, something that nobody really understood or saw, but it was a really positive experience. It helped me show my friends and people that I cared about what I was passionate about, which was a great experience, but it was something that really pushed me outside my comfort zone. In the wider spread, American community, America as a community, there are a lot of places that don't understand this form of dance styles, and when I travel or talk to people, they don't know what it's like to be a Asian American dancer. Their views on it are very simply connected to what they see in pop culture or in movies and films, and it's not specifically Bhangra isn't something that's represented in American films.
So, my name is Yuri. For the past 2 years, I guess I've been involved with mostly the K-pop dance club, but I've also kind of danced with Dancer Symposium. I guess because the dancer community at CMU is there's a lot of Asian Americans within the dancer community itself. It's kind of helped me find other Asian American friends that maybe I wouldn't have found in a different setting or community. And obviously K-pop dance itself definitely connects me to my culture in a way. I guess growing up, I never considered dancing, or at least dancing in more fun ways. I wanted to do dancing as an extracurricular, but it's the whole model minority thing. I feel Asian Americans are more discouraged from being a part of the arts as much, or a part of the arts that doesn't look good on a resume. So in the larger hip hop dance community, I feel we've seen a few bigger Asian American names come up nowadays, like Bailey Sock, and I think Sean Liu, he's Asian American. These big names, but I feel growing up, my biggest perception of dancing was dance moms and the pretty, contemporary or ballet styles. And it was kind of hard to see Asian Americans specifically doing hip hop dance or stuff like that. It wasn't known as an activity you would want your kid to do, but nowadays it's become a greater thing, probably because of the cultural capital of K-pop and stuff. But
Hi, I'm Ria. I'm on CMU Gia, which is a Bollywood fusion team, and that means we do a little bit of everything, primarily South Asian dance styles. So typically we'll include Bollywood, Guttu, Indian classical, Bhangra, Ras, contemporary, and hip-hop within our competitive set. I think being within a Bollywood fusion team and dancing within Bollywood fusion my entire life has helped to stay tied to the culture in a large way. I know that growing up outside of where my parents are from in this sort of fusion culture, for a lot of people not having their culture be the mainstream, being what's cool or what's beautiful, leads to them to sort of intentionally distance themselves from it. Having that connection through dance to my culture made it a lot easier for me to embrace it and to never have as bad phases of wanting to distance myself from it or hating myself for it, which I know a lot of people have gone through. And luckily I had a lot of really great role models within dance that were the reason that I was able to love my culture so much growing up. So it's been really good for me as a way to stay tied to the culture. Luckily for me, I've always grown up in towns and in school systems where there have been a lot of South Asians, and a lot of them have also been in dance, so I haven't been on my own doing it, sort of. I've always known a lot of other South Asian Americans in that same like dance circuit. So for me, it hasn't sort of been at odds. It's been very like well integrated into my community. I think within college at CMU, a lot of the Asian American dance teams, especially for example CMU Bhangra, are very well known around campus. So everyone is sort of aware of like Asian American dance styles, and I do feel that there's like a lot of acceptance and representation at CMU. But widespread, like sort of throughout America, I think it is very inconsistent with the amounts of representation there are. And I know in the professional world, I don't see that many Asian American, or at least South Asian American dancers. Or when I do, they're not really doing South Asian American dance styles. And I know there's also been the whole issue of, for example, at the Oscars with the Natu Natu performance and people's concerns about the dancers hired for that not being South Asian. I know there are issues within the professional dance community with Asian representation, and within college, at least for me, I feel represented and supported here, but professionally I don't know that it would be the case.
So my name is Anjali. I've done Kuchipudi, I'm on CMU Bhangra, and I've also tried styles like hip hop and popping. I think for me, Kuchipudi and Bhangra specifically have been really good about reaffirming my identity. For Kuchipudi, it was all about telling stories that I'd grown up with and really connecting with Hindu or Indian mythology, and that was great to connect me to my culture. Bhangra has done the same thing. It's all about connecting with a bunch of other people in the Indian American community, and I've gotten to explore North Indian culture through it, so I think those have both been very reaffirming experiences. So I've tried freestyling through CMU Street Styles before, and I found that personally it's very hard for me to get creative with it, possibly because there's not really that much representation in that space of Indian Americans specifically, and there's a stereotype that South Asians aren't really as creative, that they're more analytical and logical. And so I do think that that has an influence on how I do the style. Yeah, I think through Kuchipudi and Bhangra specifically, I've definitely found a community of fellow South Asian Americans who really love dancing and who do these wonderful art forms. On the flip side, trying more American styles like hip hop or popping, I found that there's less representation. And even though in my experience going into these spaces, I've never been treated differently as a South Asian, it certainly does provide a little bit of a mental block, and that's something that you kind of have to get over, or you have to try and find mentors who have gone through the same thing and can possibly give you advice on that. So I found a few like Indian Americans who do hip hop on YouTube, and I tend to follow their videos, kind of see their styles, and they really resonated with me just because they do hip hop to Bollywood music, and that just makes it easier for me to do because it's music I'm familiar with that I really have ties to. So I wouldn't say I found a mentor per se, but it's more about just trying to seek out other creatives who have probably gone through the same thing. So I think just having more opportunities for South Asians to join, less stigma even within the community against doing styles like hip hop, because that's a whole other conversation we could have. And in general, just trying to bring up the community in these areas.